Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.
Up front today, you'll meet Father George Clements of Chicago, Illinois. He's an adoptive parent and co-founder of a national black adoption program. We'll also tell you what state officials are doing here to find permanent homes for some black children now in foster care. Our one-to-one segment today features Corrine Mabuse, who talks to Genevieve about the Women's Political Caucus. I'm Rob Hinton. We'll have those stories and more today on Folks.
Everybody's just folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Those who live, folks got to give, folks got to care, folks got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, who touches us all? To stay alive, just to survive, folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks, everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just folks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Folks. Up front today, we'll be telling you about a man who has turned a dream into reality, not only for himself, but for many, many others. That man is Father George Clements of Chicago, Illinois. Father Clements is co-founder of the One Church, One Child program, a black adoption program. Now, Father Clements says the black church is the best place to recruit black adoptive families. But turning his dream into a reality became somewhat frustrating. What did Father Clements do? Well, here's Gordon Johnson, director of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, to tell us.
We told them we had some problems. We had 700 black children who needed homes, and that we were trying to get these children placed. We had made changes in our agency regulations. You didn't have to be married. You could be single. You didn't have to live in a house, and you could have a modest income, and so forth and so on. We went through that. We also said we're bringing on black staff because in Department of Children and Family Services, the hierarchy is there. The seniority is there. Adoption is the elite group. And when you move into those areas of child welfare, child abuse and neglect, which we deal with every day, is a very difficult area, but awful hard to be as staff. Burnout is high. But in adoptions, it's a little different. It's nice. You get some satisfaction of placing and making families happy. We made changes. We brought some black staff in, and we made those staff black and white, get out on weekends. We told Father, we're ready to do all of this. He says, I want to help. He said, I'm going to my parish. I'm just going to give a little background of what he said. I'm going to my parishioners. I'm going to talk to them because I think we can launch this. And he says, I think I'm going to come up with a name. I think One Church, One Child. And he says, that seems to have a ring. He says, I'll help you. We didn't know what was going to happen. 2 weeks later, he said, I talked to my parishioners, and basically bottom line was they turned me off. He was angry. I never seen him so angry. I said, well, what's this man going to do? So I didn't hear anything, and then about 2 days later, he says, Gordon, I want to tell you first before anybody else hears about it. I said, yes, Father, I figured, that he's not going to have anything to do with the program. He said, I'm going to adopt a child. And if he doesn't remember, I will remember. There was a pause, a long pause at the end of the phone from me. I said, a black priest going to adopt a black child? Who knows the Pope? What's going to happen here? So what happened was, he stirred up not only the nation, but Chicago was burning. I mean, they were, his bosses and his peers were just rocking and reeling, laughing and carrying on, and not only that, very serious about what was going on. And of course, we followed through with it. And we had to test too, because the big test for this department was, can we produce a child for him in a short period of time? Because Father's not going to wait for 6 months, a year, and 2 years now. He's going to test the system himself. I knew what was happening. And we did. Gary Morgan, who's my associate deputy, who we reduced, was in charge of handling that case. And I think within 30 days, we had Joey in Father's care.
If you really want to talk about one church, one family, go back to 1619, when we first arrived on these shores, much against our will. And when we arrived here, it was into an institution that is one of the most barbaric the world has ever known. One of the most incredibly, horribly, wretched, filthy, rotten practices that human beings have ever gotten involved in. And that is, of course, slavery. And when we got involved in this, we were a people that really were at sea. We had nothing and nobody and nowhere to turn. And there was one institution that came to our rescue during those days of slavery. And that one institution is what you are inside at this moment, and that is God's black church. It was the black church that enabled us to survive. And it was the black church that brought us through a period that a lot of us try to gloss over. We don't like to even think about it. You know, they have a thing here in America that they call Black History Month in February. The very fact that we have it indicates that there is a lacuna in the historical archives of this nation, because they just tried to just kind of pretend that black folk didn't even exist up until fairly recently. But now we're trying to make up for it through what is called Black History Month. Well, one of the things that we're going to have to come to grips with when we're talking about black history is that period right after slavery, right after 1863, when black folks were thrown upon this nation without any real skills, without very, very little expertise, with very, very little to offer this nation. Millions. And the thought occurred to quite a few people in command in this nation that we need to do the same thing to black folks that had happened to the American Indians, and that is extermination. These people were now expendable. Let's get rid of them. And it was the black church that came to our rescue and said, no, no, you dare not touch them, because they are baptized Christians, baptized. And if you do something to them, you are guilty of murder. It's not like some heathen Indians. That's murder. And it was the black church, through both black churchmen and some white churchmen, notably Quakers, who came and brought us through that period, on through the Reconstruction, on into those world wars that we had, on into that Great Depression. When you talk about poverty, now I don't see too many people in my vintage in this room, but anybody who is around my time, you know what that depression was. Now that was some shown up poverty. And the only institution that we had to turn to was the black church. The black church. And then we brought that on into this civil rights era. And where again did we go? I was one who was fortunate enough to be at Brown's Chapel down in Selma, Alabama a few years ago. And once again, it was the black church back there in Montgomery and all the way through the South and on into the much greater, harder, more difficult struggle in that north. You know, they say the real problem is up north, not down south. We're the ones that are the hypocrites down through our history. And it was that black church, once again. Matter of fact, who had the audacity to run for the presidency of the United States right in our own time, other than a black churchman, Reverend Jesse Jackson? So it's the black church that I want to really talk about this afternoon and tell you that the only way we are ever going to be able to solve this problem of homeless children is by utilization of the black church.
Again, Father Clements and Gordon Johnson are founders of the One Church, One Child program, a program with proven success. It has been so successful that state officials here in Louisiana have initiated the One Church, One Family program, very similar to the black adoption program in Illinois. According to Dr. Sandra Robinson, Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Resources, Louisiana ranks 5th in the nation with children in foster care, approximately 6,000. And many of these children are black.
Right now, that about 47% of our minority children are usually between 6 and 12 years of age. And of course, that creates a difficulty because many parents are looking for babies. We also have a lack of parents available for minority kids, and of course, this is the reason for this group. When we looked at the statistics in terms of white parents and white children, we find on average that there are 3 couples for every white child that may need adoption, whereas there are very few black couples available for black children.
Why are there so many homeless black children? Well, Father Clements has an idea why.
The reason is quite simple, because the black church has not been brought into the picture. Black people really were never aware of the dimensions of this problem until fairly recently. And now that they have become aware, now that Louisiana is number 4, we started with Illinois, then we got Missouri, then we got Kansas, and now we got Louisiana. Now that Louisiana is also involved, you're going to see a rapid decrease in the number of children who have only temporary homes. They're going to be getting permanent homes.
As mentioned earlier, Father Clements is co-founder of the One Church, One Child concept. Only here in Louisiana, the program is called One Church, One Family. The program utilizes the clergy as recruiters of black families who are willing to adopt.
The clergy has the leading role, really, because the people who we are trying to persuade to take in homeless children are people who are really convinced that the clergy is trustworthy. And so they are willing to listen to what the clergy have to say. See, I think we have to just accept for a given fact the reason that we have had such little cooperation between the general public and government bureaucrats is because they don't trust them. And they don't really feel that they're going to get a good deal. Most people don't, many people don't. They feel like there's reams and reams of red tape they'll have to go through, and so they just sort of throw up their hands and say, well, what's the point? But when you get the clergy involved, that's a different dynamic altogether.
What approach will the clergy use as far as approaching prospective members of their congregation?
Well, the first thing that you have to do is what Louisiana has done, and that is you have to get leading clergy on your board. These are people who know other clergy intimately. As with most professional groups, clergy speak to clergy, just like lawyers talk to lawyers or doctors to doctors. And what we want to do is get into the churches in the black community with a very brief program of perhaps an adoptive couple, a movie, expert in the field of adoption, and have them make a presentation, and then we're hopeful that at least one family in that church will actually adopt a child. Of course, as the experience of Illinois shows, usually more than one does. But in order to do that, you have to get the minister's cooperation, and that's why the ministerial role is so important, because the minister on the board will tell us about other churches where he knows we will get a warm reception, and that's really what's key.
And according to Gordon Johnson, director of the Department of Children and Family Services in Illinois, the media plays a key role.
Well, the media in many other states and many other cities will have programs they call like Wednesday's Child or Child Who Needs Placement, and to highlight that need for placement of that child at a specific time, and they'll go out and they will help the community to realize that there are children who need placement, there are children who need homes. There's no way that in Illinois that we would have been so successful if we didn't have the media who were so committed to helping us to find homes for those children. And what they did was they would have press conferences like this, but they also would say, we're going to commit a day, a month, or a week to highlight a special child on our specific newscast, and we're going to call it such and such. And so one of the reporters, commits his time, and the station commits their time to highlighting the need for placement of children.
Tell us about some of the reaction you have gotten from the adoptive parents about this program in Illinois.
Well, initially they were surprised that we had changed. Illinois had changed many of its regulations, and made sure we had staff. We did a lot of things in Illinois that many other states have not done. And what had happened as a result of our change, particularly the black parents said, look, I see that this state is trying to make changes, and I see that they're going to place a child in my home. It's not going to take 6 years or 2 years. It's going to take 30 days or 6 months. And we have been very successful in placing children within 30 days to 6 months, which is a very surprise factor in the black community.
We have gotten a very, very strong response from Illinois to the extent that we had 703 children black children waiting for adoption when we started the program. Today we have 40. So, you know, there's just been a tremendous response.
One church, one family. Truly an exciting program. Time now for our one-to-one segment, which today features the head of the Women's Political Caucus here in Louisiana. With that story, here's Genevieve Stewart.
Rob, the Women's Political Caucus is a nonprofit organization which addresses the concerns of women. Through the political process, it conducts research, lobbies, and acts as an overseer to ensure that government does not overlook the rights of women constituents. Its members are white, black, rich and poor, women and men. Corrine Mabuse, a founder and current state president of this interesting coalition, enlightened us on the group's goals and objectives.
Our main function, we are really the political arm at a national level and local of the women's movement. We are dedicated to seeing that women are in high places in the legislative halls, both locally, statewide, and national-wise. We feel that it is so unfounded that our brothers, the men, can sit and make laws about us. Therefore, we felt and we still feel that we should be a part of making those laws and implementing those laws. That is our primary purpose, to see that women are put in high places of legislation.
With increased attention being devoted to women's concerns, an extensive network of women's groups has developed. Consequently, the public is sometimes confused over the functions of these organizations. Often, there appears to be a rivalry among the activist groups. One wonders, is there discord within the individual organizations?
One thing that bothers me, and I'm sort of glad you asked this, Genevieve, because I am concerned, and I've been a long time concerned, still about black-white. I still am concerned about that. I feel that, in fact, I know this, that with all of this enlightenment that we have, and all of the potential and all of the education, we have not learned to really be sisters and support each other in terms of, if I'm in office now, shall we support her and make her look good? And until we learn to do that, say, forget about whether the cat's in the chair or the dog's in the chair. It's the chair. And it's the purpose of the organization, what we're striving for.
It's a commonplace thought among many people that women have parity. So what's left?
Although women do now feel, and we think that Geraldine did this for her, in spite of all of the other things you've heard, women are beginning to say, we have got to get on the move, that she did something for us. All the blows and knocks that she took and putting herself out there. Then women are beginning to find out that there's so many things, not only women, but that children need. For example, here in our own state, we're looking at child care, which is one of our big planks here in Louisiana. We still are looking at the matter of insurance. We're looking at the matter of alimony for children up to 19 and a half years old. So we have a long way still to go. And we still don't have enough women elected. Governor Edwards has done a great good in appointing women. But we want to get there, you know, by being elected. And we still need to prick the consciences of women.
With Lindy Boggs holding office in the Congress, Diana Bajwa in the State House of Representatives, the mayor of Hammond is a woman. Are political aspirations for women in Louisiana a moot issue?
There are several groups of people out there which were untapped: the unmarried woman, the young voter, and the professionals. This is what this election, the past national election, did for us and did for women, because that group was just sitting idly by. But the survey, some 25,000 million women have now said, we will get in on the wagon next time it rolls around.
Currently in Louisiana, 50% of all households are headed by unmarried women, and 25% of those families are living below the poverty level. It is statistics like these that concern the Women's Political Caucus. But women in poverty are often the silent minority in society.
For impoverished women, where is their place in the women's movement?
Here in Louisiana, the impoverished woman, through people like Annie Smart and the group that she represents, really are more on the ball than the professional women. It was not till Geraldine ran, we found this in the study from these 5 congressional districts in this country. They are more on the ball than we are. They really are. Maybe because they are disadvantaged. It's just I just love to sit and listen to Mrs. Smart talk about the legislation that she and the impoverished woman or women know. And I worry and I wonder and I pray, why can't all of us, and those of us who say we are college-bred women, why don't we know that? We think we have it all, maybe because we do have a college degree, but those women who have suffered a little ahead of us, I believe.
Are women who hold office in Louisiana either appointed or elected too low-key?
Yes, I do. Because I'm too high-key. But I really do. I feel that and some of those who have been elected here in our state have been that way because they wanted the blessings of the guys. But for those who have spoken out, they get it also.
The Women's Political Caucus is nonpartisan. Their primary function is research and implementing the results of the research by lobbying the state legislature. Its numbers are growing, with new chapters being chartered statewide every year. Corinne Maybuse was there at the start 20 years ago. As the caucus's state president, she has plans to ensure its viability in the future.
The next thing we plan to do is to educate more women to the political process. We've got to do that. We want to find those women out there and men and foundations who will give us their money to do the things that we want to do. But the primary purpose right now is to get a woman elected in a statewide office and get people educated to the fact that this is a woman with good sense and a qualified woman who can meet the people, who knows the issues, who can take the bruises and the brunts and still go on. We are also concerned with finding women with talents and getting them involved and recommending them to our governor and the other powers that be to be involved in on commissions and boards and what have you. Some of the strongest commissions that and boards we do have are those who are comprised of women, qualified women.
It's been a wonderful 3 years for me here on Folks. This is my last program. I have 2 little boys at home bidding for my time and attention. But from time to time, I do hope to return to work on some special projects. Thank you for being a very receptive audience, a very supportive audience. Thank you to wonderful people like Rob Hinton and a very professional staff here at LPB that makes what I do appear easy. I'll miss it.
Genevieve, needless to say, we're going to miss you. But before you leave, we want you to take a look at the monitor because we have something we want you to see here. I want you to just think back 3 years because we want you to see your first appearance on Folks.
Oh, no.
This is you and me, our first show back in January.
That's right, Rob. Because many of the newly unemployed, particularly the newly unemployed, are experiencing the frustration of not knowing where to turn next. They are literally caught in the gap between government bureaucracy and the lack of jobs in the private sector.
This is from one of our festival drives. Keep in mind, this is live television.
Well, how'd you like that?
Funding for the production of Folks
What you're about to
is
see,
provided
this is
in part by the
tease coming up,
Friends of
teasing the
LPB.
program. Now, this is the actual way it aired.
To many, he was Mr. Civil Rights here in Louisiana for nearly 50 years.
First of all, I want you to see the tease, the way it aired.
And I'm
And
Genevieve
after it, you're going
Stewart.
to see
Today
what
on
we
Folks,
did,
a look at the
one of
late
our
A.P. Turo
outtakes.
and his fight for racial
And take note of
equality for
Genevieve.
all.
3, 2, 1. This is A.P. Turo. To many, he was Mr. Civil Rights here in Louisiana for nearly 50 years. Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Hinton.
And I'm Genevieve Stewart. Today on Folks, a look at the late... 3,
This
2...
is one of our many outtakes. You remember this day out in that park when you were
Power of
sitting
the
there and I
ballot.
was being very
Is that
fidgety.
the only clout minorities have? Hello, everyone. I'm Genevieve Stewart.
And I'm Rob Hinton. Sunday on Folks, we'll be taking a look at the voting power of minorities here in Louisiana. We'll also be traveling.
So we'll be traveling on down.
We'll be shuffling down the road to Lafayette and see what them people doing. Okay. Oh, boy.
Genevieve forgets her
3,
line.
2,
Okay.
1. The power of the ballot. Is that the only clout minorities have?
I don't know. I think that's it, Clay.
All right.
All kidding aside, Genevieve, we're going to miss seeing your smiling face regularly. We really are going to miss you.
Thank you, Rob. You've been very patient, and everyone here has been wonderful with me.
That's our show for this week. Our summer season begins next Sunday. We will see Genevieve in the summer season because we have pre-taped all those programs, and we hope you'll join us then. Bye-bye.
Funding for the production of Folks is provided in part by the Friends of LPB.